To what extent are men willing to go to put food on the table? And how far do the good guys go to keep criminals off the streets? Hello, quick recaps here. Today I'll show you a 1995 film called Heat. This video contains spoilers, so watch out and take care. One night in the city of Los Angeles, a hospital attendant leaves the hospital and gets into an ambulance and drives away. The next day, we're introduced to Chris Shiherlis, Danny Trejo, and Michael Carrito. The trio is in a warehouse going through some plans. Elsewhere, LAPD Lieutenant Vincent Hanna is at his third wife's house. After the morning glory, Vincent leaves for work. His wife Justine has a teenage daughter called Lauren. She is mentally unstable and is waiting for her dad to take her on a trip to the city. The other player in our film is a man called Waingro, a newly hired hand. Waingro links up with the trio from before, and it is revealed that the man who took the ambulance is Neil McCauley, a professional thief. The man is getting ready to strike. The group hits an armored truck and robs $1.6 million in bearer bonds. During the heist, Waingro impulsively kills a guard, putting a damp on the whole mission that was supposed to go accident-free. As a result, Neil has to shoot the second guard who attempts to draw out a concealed weapon. To get rid of the evidence, Neil orders Michael to kill the third guard, and there was no witnesses left behind. The thieves flee, largely disappointed at the fact that they could all go down for murder. Neil meets up with his fiancée, Nate, who suggests that they sell the bonds back to their original owner, a ruthless money launderer called Roger Van Zant. Van Zant agrees to buy the bonds, but is angered by the theft. Vincent and his team are working through the robbery case. Vincent is a dedicated lawman and former Marine, very good at his job. Guess we'll see who wins in the end. Neil and his team manage to track Waingro and want to kill him outside of the parking lot. However, a cop car passes by and this allows Waingro to escape, much to Vincent's fury. Chris has a strained relationship with his wife, Charlene, who doesn't like the criminal activities her husband is involved in. The case has taken a toll on Vincent, and this causes the strain between him and Justine to widen. Justine hates how she is never a priority to her husband, while Vincent feels upholding the law comes first. Can you blame him? Neil has one major rule in life: allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner. Quite fitting for a man who likes to break a few rules. One night he meets a beautiful woman, Edie, who's a graphic design artist. The two talk for a while and go back to Edie's apartment. The next morning, Neil goes to see another client for their next job. The plan is to rig the computer system so the computers and CCTVs shut themselves off 20 minutes before Neil and his team walk in. Nate calls Van Zant, who arranges to meet and exchange the bonds for money. The deal is quite good as he would be getting paid for the robbery by insurance. However, Zant decides to kill Neil and his men. Neil is very close with Chris, though he does not think Chris's relationship with Charlene is fine. A man called Richard is the brother to one of Vincent's informants, Albert, and he is supposed to meet up with Vincent later. When Neil goes to collect the cash, he sees Charlene talking with a man at a motel. Neil storms into the room and tells Charlene that she should give Chris the last chance. After that, if Chris messes up again, then he would personally take care of her financial needs. That evening, Vincent goes to meet up with his informant. At first, Vincent doesn't get any relevant information from Richard until he mentions Michael's favorite slang and body appearance. Vincent realizes Michael was one of the robbers, and his team begins monitoring him. Neil and Zant's men meet up for the exchange, but Chris realizes it is an ambush. Luckily, they had anticipated this, so they quickly kill Zant's men. Neil calls Zant regarding the ambush, and he vows to kill him. That night, the thieves celebrate their wins with their families, and Neil is the only one without a spouse. The loneliness gets to him, and he calls Edie, asking if he can meet with her. As the families depart, Vincent and his team watch them and identify them. They decide to keep on tailing them so that they can learn of their next score. Elsewhere, Waingro links up with a child prostitute. After their illicit affairs, Waingro kills the kid by throwing her off the building. Murderer, predator, and child murderer. Pretty sure this guy ticks all the boxes of being the worst human ever. Vincent and his team link the murders to other child prostitutes due to the killing method and DNA. Be careful who you choose to partner with, Neil. Vincent had been at dinner with Justine when he was called in. He returns to the restaurant and Justine asks what Vince was doing. Vincent doesn't think Justine is ready to handle all his crazy work drama and he snaps at her. Looks like Vincent should start looking for a fourth wife. Vincent is able to track the thieves' next score, a precious metals depository. As Neil and Chris are working, Neil hears some noise a careless officer makes and the thieves leave. The other officers want to arrest the guys, but Vincent realizes if they arrest them now without concrete evidence, they would leave jail soon. That's not fair to the 3 guards who had lost their lives, and he orders his crew to let the thieves walk. Neil and his team regroup and they start thinking of the way forward. Neil thinks it's time to call it quits since the town is getting a little too hot. But the other thieves want to hit a bank. This is the same bank from earlier, where they would trip the computers. The job would get the 12 million. Finally, the group decides the bank is worth the risk. In Las Vegas, Vincent is able to track the man Charlene was having an affair with. Hopefully he can help them get Chris. Vincent's team follows Neil and his team to a scrapyard. This is quite confusing as the only place near that is an oil refinery. After a few minutes of thinking, Vincent realizes Neil and his team are looking at them, studying the group that is hell-bent on tracking them down. Nate tells Neil that he shouldn't underestimate Vincent as he's taken down some major thugs over the years. Vincent tracks Macaulay and pulls him over on the highway, inviting him to coffee. They discuss their dedication to their respective jobs and the limitations of their personal lives. Hannah describes his failing marriage, and Macaulay confides that he is similarly isolated. Vincent tells Neil that his life had been wrapped up in this criminal chasing idea, so he would gladly arrest Neil if possible. Neil tells Vincent that he will never go to jail and also admits he is ready to walk out on Edie if necessary. Though they admit their respect for one another, both acknowledge that they will kill the other if necessary. My dear people, place your bets. Who comes out alive? After the meeting, Vincent is shocked to learn his team lost sight of the thieves. No one knows where the crew had disappeared to or where their next score is. Waingro seeks out Zant and offers him a deal. Some money, and he would kill Neil for him. Zant, who has desperately been staying in his office due to fear, agrees immediately. At a certain restaurant, an old friend of Neil called Don Breeden is tired of the disrespect his employer shows him. He has recently gotten out of jail and has to work as a parole requirement. Trejo quits the bank robbery hours before it happens. He says the LAPD is following him too closely, and he's very angry that he has disappointed Neil. Neil goes to the restaurant to employ Dan to fill Trejo's position. Dan agrees to the designated driver role and finally pushes his boss aside, no longer needing the employment. Neil and his team scout the bank they want to attack, disguising themselves as customers. After getting a lay of the place, they attack. In the police quarters, Vincent finally gets a tip from Zant's bodyguards of where the group is hitting. They manage to intercept the thieves before they can leave the bank, causing a shootout in the streets. That's totally dangerous. In the process, Dan and several officers are killed. Neil certainly has a good gunman, and the shootout goes on for a while. Chris and Neil separate from Michael. Chris is shot by one of the officers, but Neil gets to him and the two flee. In a park, Michael is fleeing too and grabs a child to save her from the ricocheting bullets, but Vincent gets a clean shot, killing him. Neil takes Chris to an underground doctor, and after he gets the bullet removed, he takes him to Nate's. Chris calls Charlene and asks to meet her, hoping to reconcile and relocate elsewhere. Neil goes to see Trejo, but finds him mortally wounded and his wife dead. Trejo reveals that Waingro is involved with Zant. Neil goes to call the medics, but Trejo asks him to end his misery as he wouldn't make it to the hospital. An enraged Neil calls Nate, asking for Zant's and Waingro's addresses. Neil breaks into Zant's mansion and kills him before going to meet Edie. Meanwhile, Vincent realizes the tip they got was from Charlene's lover, and they interrogate him. The team goes to see Charlene as they want her to turn against her husband. They tell her that their son, Dominic, would suffer if she was arrested for conspiracy. All she has to do is turn on her husband. Charlene is reluctant to do so, but she finds she has to protect her son. Vincent also connects Waingro and Zant to Neil. Since Neil never forgets those who've wronged him, there's a chance he might go after Waingro. Vincent has men survey the hotel Waingro is in. At Nate's place, Neil learns that Chris has left to go meet up with Charlene at the hotel. Chris changes his appearance to match his fake ID and drives there. Before he can get into the hotel, he sees Charlene through the window. Charlene smiles at her husband before hand gesturing for him to flee. Chris escapes, and when the police stop him, they let him go because of his appearance and a fake ID. Neil tells Edie all about his life and past criminal activities. Edie is disappointed, but she agrees to leave with Neil. Vincent finds Lauren unresponsive in his hotel room bathtub after a suicide attempt and rushes her to the hospital. He reconciles with Justine after they learn that Lauren has survived. Neil drives to the airport with Edie but learns Wingrow's location and abandons his usual caution to seek revenge. He infiltrates the hotel, pulls the fire alarm, bursts into Wingrow's room, and kills him. The officers keeping surveillance have already notified Vincent about Neil's presence, and he rushes to the hotel. As Neil returns to Edie, he is spotted by Vincent. Neil adheres to his code, abandoning Edie within seconds. Vincent pursues Neil onto the tarmac at the Los Angeles airport. The two stalk each other, and Hana shoots Neil in the chest after seeing his shadow using the lights of a passing aircraft. Before he breathes his last, Neil tells Vincent that he had sworn he wouldn't go to jail. Vincent takes Neil's hand as Neil dies of his wounds. Indeed, the two have fought a good fight, and in the end, good triumphed evil. But wait, this astronaut got stuck in Earth's outer atmosphere and rotated around it. See how she manages to get back to Earth. Make sure to subscribe to Quick Recaps for your favorite movie recaps.